In the world of forensics, I mean, leaving your biological fingerprint at a brutal crime scene, well, it used to be a guaranteed ticket to prison.
Oh, absolutely. It was the ultimate smoking gun.
Right. But what happens when investigators recover a flawless, like pristine DNA sample, they run it through the FBI's most powerful national supercomputers, and they hit this terrifying reality.
Yeah, the machine recognizes the DNA perfectly.
Exactly. It recognizes it, but it has absolutely no idea who the person is.
Which creates a highly dangerous blind spot, you know? You have this invisible suspect who you know is violently active, but your traditional law enforcement tools just, well, they suddenly hit a brick wall.
Which is exactly the paradox we are jumping right into today. So welcome to this deep dive.
It's a heavy one, but really important.
Yeah, it really is. We're taking a close look at a compelling case file from the Living Edition. Specifically, this is issue 01, published on June 6, 2026. The article is titled The Trail, Justice and Genealogy for Rachel Morin. And our mission today for you, our listener, is to pull apart a modern tragedy that, well, it exposes the strict, hidden limitations of traditional forensics.
But we're also going to map out the sheer power of genetic genealogy.
Yes, and most importantly, we want to extract the single most vital practical lesson about personal safety you can take away from all of this. It's kind of like assembling a sprawling, terrifying jigsaw puzzle.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, where the pieces are scattered across thousands of miles. I mean, we're talking Maryland to Los Angeles, down to El Salvador, and finally to Oklahoma.
It's staggering. But to see exactly where the traditional forensics broke down so spectacularly, we have to look at the precise timeline of August 5th, 2023.
Right, the day of the crime.
Exactly. Because without a hyper-specific sequence of events on that very first day, the science that ultimately solved this case, well, it never would have had a chance to work.
So August 5th is the day Rachel Morin went for a run and didn't come home. She was 37 years old, a mother of 5, living in Bel Air, Maryland.
Right.
Her regular route was the Ma and Pa Heritage Trail. And we should really be clear about the setting here. This wasn't, some remote, isolated wilderness where you are miles from civilization.
Not at all.
No, it's a wooded rail trail in Harford County. Mm-hmm. It's highly populated. Thousands of people go there every single week to walk their dogs, push strollers, and just get outside.
Yeah, it's the kind of communal space where the expectation of safety is naturally and understandably very high.
Right. So she goes out in the early evening. Her car is later found parked at the trailhead.
Mm-hmm.
But the detail that fundamentally shifts the trajectory of this entire investigation is the timeline of the missing persons report.
This is so crucial.
It really is. Her boyfriend didn't wait until the next morning to see if she would turn up. He didn't wait that mythical 24 hours you always hear about on television.
Right, which is a total myth, by the way.
Exactly. He reported her missing that very night. Tragically, she was found the next day just off the trail, having been raped and murdered. Okay, let's unpack this, because reading about his immediate reaction made me think of the golden hour in emergency medicine.
Oh, that's an interesting comparison.
Yeah, that brief window right after a severe physical trauma where medical intervention has the highest probability of saving a life. Miss it, and the survival odds just tank. It seems like there's a forensic equivalent to that golden hour happening right here on the trail.
That analogy actually maps perfectly onto the biology of a crime scene. Forensic degradation is incredibly unforgiving, especially outdoors. Time is essentially an active eraser of biological evidence.
So the clock is literally ticking away the clues.
Exactly. I mean, in an indoor crime scene, say, a climate-controlled living room DNA can remain stable for a very long time. But on a wooded trail in Maryland in August, you are fighting a war against the environment.
Oh, Maryland in August is brutal.
It is. Ultraviolet light from the sun shatters DNA chains. High humidity and heat accelerate the growth of bacteria and fungi, which literally consume biological material. Every single hour that passes, the ecosystem is actively breaking down the microscopic story of what happened.
So if he had waited 12 more hours, the Maryland August heat just bakes the crime scene.
It would have been heavily compromised, if not destroyed entirely. But because she was reported missing within hours, law enforcement was mobilized immediately. The scene was located and processed before the elements could do their worst.
Wow.
Yeah. And because of that speed, investigators recovered a complete DNA profile of an unknown male. It was pristine. Finding an outdoor profile this intact without severe environmental degradation is exceptionally rare.
It's the absolute ideal scenario for an investigator, right? You have the suspect's complete biological blueprint in hand on day one. Most of us, carrying around conditioning from decades of procedural crime shows, would assume the case gets closed by Tuesday.
Right, the whole CSI effect.
Exactly. You swab it, the glowing machine beeps, and you print out the guy's home address.
The investigators certainly assumed this perfect profile would crack the case wide open immediately. But instead, it led them straight into a staggering forensic paradox. They submitted this pristine DNA to CODIS, the FBI's National DNA Index.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
We treat this database like it is a magical encyclopedia containing the identity of every human on Earth. Why is the reality of CODIS so completely blind to this guy?
What's fascinating here is the actual architecture of CODIS. CODIS stands for the Combined DNA Index System. It is an incredibly powerful tool, but it is not a blueprint of a person.
Okay.
It's more like a biological barcode system. When crime labs upload a profile to CODIS, they aren't uploading the suspect's eye color, their ancestry, or a full genetic map. They are uploading 20 specific genetic markers called short tandem repeats, or STRs.
That's 20 markers.
Yeah, just 20. It was designed this way decades ago, specifically for privacy reasons. It can only tell you if two barcodes match.
So it's literally just a matching engine. It can connect two pieces of evidence together, but it inherently lacks the ability to tell you who left them.
Exactly that. When they ran the Maryland trail DNA, the system flagged a direct match, but it didn't give them a name.
Right.
It matched a DNA profile left behind at a horrific home invasion assault in Los Angeles from March 2023. That was 5 months earlier and 2,600 miles away.
So investigators know with absolute scientific certainty that they are hunting a single individual who committed a violent assault on the West Coast and then a brutal murder on the East Coast.
Yes.
But they still have zero idea what to call him.
Because of the foundational limitation of CODIS. Your DNA barcode only has a name attached to it if you have a prior U.S. arrest or conviction that required law enforcement to take a cheek swab.
And the suspect had never been arrested in the United States.
Therefore, his identity did not exist in the system. As the source material describes it so chillingly, the database knew his DNA by heart and had no idea who he was.
That's a haunting way to phrase it. It's like having a crystal clear photograph of a ghost. You can see the face perfectly, but it doesn't match a single driver's license in the country.
Exactly.
And this paradox stalls the investigation for 9 agonizing months, from August 2023 all the way to May 2024. They have flawless physical evidence pointing directly at a violently active suspect, and they are paralyzed.
Which forces a massive operational pivot. Traditional forensics had done all it could do. It proved the Los Angeles and Maryland crimes were linked. But to actually get a name, investigators had to abandon standard forensics entirely.
And turn to the controversial cutting-edge science of the family tree, right?
Yeah.
Forensic genetic genealogy.
Exactly. The same overarching method used to finally catch the Golden State Killer.
Right. So the investigators take this Perkin DNA sample and they send it to a specialized lab named Othram, which develops a highly advanced DNA profile. So what does this all mean mechanically? If CODIS already had his DNA, how is this new profile any different?
Well, remember how CODIS only looks at 20 specific markers? It's just a tiny snapshot.
Yeah.
Genetic genealogy labs extract hundreds of thousands of genetic markers, single nucleotide polymorphisms, or SNPs.
Hundreds of thousands, wow.
Yeah. Instead of a simple barcode, they are building a massive, highly detailed genetic map that includes traits, ancestry, and deep familial connections. Think of it less like reading a barcode and more like reconstructing a shattered mirror.
Okay, I like that visual.
You look at all the scattered shards found in different places, and you start to see reflections of the people standing near the person you're actually looking for.
I see. So the FBI Baltimore field office takes this massive genetic map and starts building a family tree outward from distant relatives in commercial genealogy databases.
That's the process.
Is this essentially like trying to identify an anonymous caller who keeps harassing you, but the only way you can do it is by walking backward through their third cousin's phone contacts?
It is a tempting way to conceptualize it, but it's actually much messier than a phone directory. In a directory, numbers are fixed, but DNA recombination is inherently random.
Right, biology is messy.
Imagine an area code where the phone numbers scramble and mix themselves up every single generation. The FBI genealogists take this advanced genetic profile and upload it to commercial genealogical databases that allow law enforcement searches.
Meaning if you, the listener, or your cousin have ever mailed a tube of spit to one of these companies to find out where your great-grandparents came from, you are potentially part of the grid that caught him.
The investigators aren't looking for the killer in those databases. They assume he hasn't taken a commercial DNA test. They are looking for distant relatives who share a small percentage of that randomized DNA, maybe a second cousin or a third cousin once removed.
And unlike the ghost in CODIS, these distant cousins have names. They have public records.
Yes. And from those distant cousins, the genealogists become historical detectives. They have to build the family tree backward in time. They use census data, immigration records, birth certificates, marriage licenses, and obituaries. They build the tree all the way up to a set of common great-grandparents. And then the truly grueling part begins.
They have to come forward again.
Exactly. They have to trace every single branch of that family forward to the present day.
Manually ruling people out.
Branch by branch, they eliminate the women, they eliminate the men who are the wrong age, they cross-reference geography, who lived in Central America, who migrated to the U.S., who was living near Los Angeles in March of 2023, and who was in Maryland in August.
Until there is only one leaf left on the tree.
Until there's only one leaf left. And in this case, that painstaking branch-by-branch search led them outside the borders of the United States. It led them to El Salvador, pointing to a man named Victor Martinez-Hernandez.
If we look at the timeline here, synthesizing the genealogy with international law enforcement reveals a terrifying reality of borderless crime.
It really does.
When U.S. authorities coordinated with El Salvadoran law enforcement, they found out Martinez-Hernandez was already a wanted man. He was wanted in connection with the brutal murder of a young woman in El Salvador before he fled that country in early 2023.
Right.
And as a quick note for you listening, our goal here is to impartially report the facts laid out in the source material. This isn't about endorsing any political statements regarding borders or immigration policy. It is simply explaining the geographical reality of how a transnational fugitive evaded capture and how the science tracked his movements.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, his mobility is precisely what made him a ghost to standard law enforcement. He was leaving a wave of violence across multiple jurisdictions.
El Salvador, Los Angeles, Maryland.
Right. A murder in El Salvador, fleeing to the U.S., a home invasion assault in Los Angeles in March, and the murder of Rachel Morin in Maryland in August. He wasn't staying in one place long enough to get caught in a local system. But genetic genealogy doesn't care about state lines or national borders. It just follows the biology.
And the timing of when that biology finally produced his name carries an incredible emotional weight in the source material. The breakthrough lead, the day the FBI finally had the name, Victor Martinez-Hernandez, on a piece of paper, surfaced on May 20, 2024.
Which is such a poignant detail.
It is, because that day would have been Rachel Morin's 38th birthday.
It is a profound convergence of science and memory. But as significant as that moment was, having a name in a file in Baltimore doesn't automatically put handcuffs on a highly mobile fugitive who is actively evading law enforcement.
Right, the digital genetic manhunt has to transition back into a physical manhunt. This guy went from El Salvador to Los Angeles to Maryland and the final destination, Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Right in the middle of the country.
Yeah. On June 14, 2024, the FBI, working alongside Tulsa police, finally cornered him at a local bar.
You map out that geography, and it is staggering. He covered thousands of miles.
I really want to push back on this pervasive myth we constantly see in pop culture, this romanticized notion of the perfect crime, or a fugitive just disappearing into the ether.
The whole slipping away into the night idea?
You know the trope. The bad guy throws a duffel bag in the trunk of a dusty car, drives off the grid, and just vanishes. But looking at the mechanics of this case, the ether doesn't exist anymore. You can run all the way to Oklahoma, you can sit quietly on a bar stool, but eventually your third cousin's genetic markers are going to walk through the front door and tap you on the shoulder.
The grid is simply too tight now. And when the grid finally closes in, the results are deeply absolute. Martinez-Hernandez went to trial in April 2025.
In Harford County.
Right. A Harford County jury convicted him of first-degree premeditated murder, first-degree rape, kidnapping, and a third-degree sexual offense. A few months later, on August 11th, 2025, the judge handed down the sentencing.
2 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 40 years.
Exactly. His lawyers have indicated they will appeal, but as the source file notes, that conviction currently stands.
Yeah, it's a very solid conviction.
What is crucial to analyze here is the definitive nature of that conviction. Why was the jury's verdict so comprehensive? Why was the judge's sentence so absolute? It was because the defense couldn't dismantle the forensic evidence.
Because it's perfect.
It was a mathematical certainty, and it was only mathematically certain because it was preserved before the environment could degrade it on day one.
Which brings us to the core takeaway of this entire case file. The source material emphasizes this, and it is critical to state this clearly directly to you. Rachel Morin did absolutely nothing wrong.
Nothing.
Nothing in this analysis should be interpreted as a list of things she should have done differently. She was running on a popular public trail in her own town in the early evening. Thousands of people do that safely every single day.
The responsibility for a random violent attack lies entirely and exclusively with the perpetrator. There is no behavioral adjustment a person can make to guarantee immunity from someone intent on doing harm.
But there is a crucial lesson embedded in the mechanics of how this was solved. And it isn't about victim blaming. It is entirely about empowerment.
Right.
The real lesson of the Rachel Morin case is about the value of time. The source material sums it up perfectly. Hours matter more than almost anything else an ordinary person can control.
By acting immediately when his partner didn't return from her routine, Rachel's boyfriend unknowingly shielded the crime scene from the elements. He essentially locked the pristine DNA in a forensic vault before the heat and humidity could destroy it.
If you take away anything from this deep dive today, let it be this. If someone you love runs, hikes, or walks alone, the most effective habit you can build costs absolutely nothing.
Just basic communication.
Exactly. Know their route, know how long it usually takes them, and act early when something feels off. Set up a simple text protocol. Going for a run on the Mon Pop, be back in 45 minutes. If hour 2 rolls around and their phone goes straight to voicemail, do not wait until tomorrow morning to see if they show up.
You have to act.
You act. Sharing your route and setting return time expectations is a zero-cost safety measure. It literally preserves the evidence needed for justice, and in emergency situations, it saves lives.
This raises an important question about how we fundamentally view personal safety. We spend billions of dollars on physical deterrence, pepper spray, personal alarms, specialized keychains.
Sure, yeah.
And those tools certainly have their place. But personal safety isn't merely about what you carry when you are alone in the woods. It is fundamentally about the invisible systems of accountability and communication you build with the people waiting for you at home. They are the ones who know exactly when to sound the alarm.
Safety is a network, not just a personal shield. And the strength of Rachel's network is the reason her killer isn't still moving across the country.
It gave the science the unbroken biological material it needed to even start the search.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final concept to mull over on your own time. We've spent this entire conversation looking at the staggering power of genetic genealogy. We've seen how investigators can now track down highly mobile suspects who have never been arrested, who don't exist in traditional criminal databases like Cody's.
Right, they're ghosts in the official system.
Exactly. They are identified simply by utilizing the DNA of innocent, distant relatives who took a recreational ancestry test.
It completely bypasses the traditional requirement of a prior criminal history to get a biological match.
Right. So given that reality, how will this completely rewrite the concept of privacy in the future of law enforcement? If your third cousin mailing a tube of spit to a lab can inadvertently put a digital tracking collar on you, does the idea of remaining anonymous in modern society, of having a truly clean record, even exist anymore?
It's a profound shift in what it means to be off the grid.
It really is. Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. Stay safe out there.